Hello and welcome to my flosstube channel. This is AM Dreamingstitcher, here to bring an update on what I have been doing with my cross stitching. It has been about 11 months since I last posted a video, so if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back after such a very long delay. I appreciate that you're taking the time to see what I'm up to again, since I haven't been kind enough to share it with you for quite a while. If you are new to this channel, please understand that although it is about cross stitch, it does not have tutorials or lessons. At most, it just offers my thoughts and opinions on things related to cross stitch. I am here to show the stitching that I've done in the time that I was gone. So welcome, new viewers. I hope that maybe you will see something that interests you. And to my old viewers, my goodness, you're faithful for coming back after all this time. Thank you so very much. I won't even try to go into all the reasons that it has taken so long, but I can say my craft room is finished at last. It's not something I can show off to you, but it is the new space in which I'm filming, and I don't know how good the light will be, but you can perhaps see that I have a stack of things here ready to go through. Today I have 11 projects to show you. Many of them are works in progress from the past, some of them are new starts, some of them are finishes. There's at least one fully finished object and several practically fully finished objects, which will make sense when you see them. But let me kind of get this preview pile out of the way and get started. I don't know that I put these in any particular order, but just about everything has been worked on in these 11 months, and one would think in that amount of time I'd have a lot more to show than I do, but it's something. So to begin with, on the top of my pile, I seem to have this kit from Hawthorne Handmade. It celebrates one of my favorite subjects, which is prehistoric beasties, and in this case it was a plesiosaurus. I got 4 kits from Hawthorne Handmade that are all in this kind of subject matter, and I understand, or I have seen, that they have a new one now, at least one new one, but I can't afford it. Plus I have more than enough things to stitch in my life. The plesiosaurus I had started before, and you all had seen some progress on it, and here it is, all stitched up. I can't tell that my colors are coming across on the computer quite true to life, but I really can speak well of my opinion of this kit. I thought the materials were very good. This hoop gave me better tension than I'm accustomed to dealing with in my hoops. The floss was all good. I liked everything about it. It was beautifully packaged. I have no hesitation in recommending things from this company. It is not quite fully finished. As you can see, I've covered the back and all, but I haven't gotten around to actually affixing it to the hoop with glue or anything and trimming off the extra fabric. Instead, it's just living in my, what was it? I think Minnie Gray called it her box of shame. I don't know if that's common for everybody to call it that. I don't know that it's shameful to have finishes that aren't fully finished, but that's where this lives. So that's my plesiosaurus that you saw underway long ago, and he is done. Something that you did not see before that is a fully finished object is from the pattern is from last year. She's not quite fully finished. And this is a pattern from Etsy. I'm sorry I can't tell you the shop, but if you were to search for Queen Elizabeth and corgis, I'm sure you would find it. This was inspired by the passing of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I got 3 or 4 patterns at that time last September. Long since now, I guess September a year ago actually. And I did make a few changes to this. It was one of those shops where they only give you a computer mock-up, so some of what was going on with it, they recommended French knots in the pattern, but it looked in the computer mock-up as though they had used beads. I don't know. But I tried French knots, for example, on the necklace, and I didn't like the effect very much. So instead of doing the same on her ears where they would have just absolutely disappeared, I went ahead and substituted a color for their original color. Otherwise, I used the color they recommended. Gosh, I wish the color was coming across better to you. I also changed the skin tone from their original because they had it the same color as the lighter color on the corgi, and that was just a little too, I don't know, unhealthy a skin tone in my opinion. I considered some other changes, but I don't think I actually did any others other than making the earrings pink and changing the skin tone. I can't recall if there was anything else. Anyway, why in the world am I stitching Queen Elizabeth? That's not necessarily something that anyone cares to ask, but my maternal, no, paternal, my paternal grandmother was born in England and came as an immigrant with her mother and sisters through Ellis Island in the early years of the 20th century. So I actually legitimately have, I guess that makes me 1/4 English. I don't know. Um, Also, the late Queen was nearly an exact contemporary of my mother. That is, the Queen celebrated her birthday in the month that my mother was born. And I don't know, we just always thought well of her in our family for whatever reason. And so I got those patterns and stitched her up. I think part of it is because she was my parents' age and of their generation. When she finally passed, it was as if that's it. My parents are definitely gone now. All right, another project that I worked on was this one from, I can't say their name, Vervaco. I don't know how the company should be pronounced, but I have 3 of these little bird kits, and I got them from, I think, Hirschner's or somewhere like that quite a while back, and really, really liked them and decided to treat myself to making one of them finally. And it's one of the few instances, well, I guess it's becoming more common now, where the photograph on the packaging really does look pretty much exactly like what you get when you stitch it. I would say the same for the Hawthorne Handmade. In the past, I think the photographic reproduction just wasn't as good, and a lot of projects look much better stitched up usually than their originals, or the colors come out different than the original photos. But this one looked like it's supposed to look. So let's see if I can find where I put him. The only problem I had with this one, I loved the fabric that comes with their kits. I loved the needle, but the hoop that came with it was too small. It went very much over the edge of the stitching, and I didn't like that. So I went on a quest to find a hoop similar to the one they designed. They intended with their design. As you can see, they had that kind of faux wood hoop that was a little larger, and it's so close to the edges. I mean, there is nothing, just like with any kit fabric, there's no margin for error, that I can't do anything about the centering, and I'm not 100% happy with the way he centered. So another option I got was wooden oval hoops, and I think that they would, because they're narrower, they would let me center them a little more to my preference, perhaps. But I haven't made a final decision until the other 2 get stitched. Also, the wooden one gives you the option of, staining it or painting it or doing something like that if you want. So he's kind of not fully finished at the moment because I'm waiting to do the other 2 and decide whether I did get 3 of these at that time. And I think these came in a set of 4 or 5, I don't know. So I have enough hoops for everybody. I just don't know which one I'll choose to do in the end. But I really liked that. I liked their materials. I enjoyed the kit. I was just shocked that the hoop wasn't going to fit, because there was no way after all that stitching that I wanted to cut off the image that I was working from. Okay, that was a completely new start from when I last saw you, as was Her Majesty. This other one, though, this one that seems to be coming up next, and I think just about all but one of the things I have to show are old works in progress. So what happened with these, I don't know if I ever showed you this mock-up. It's kind of cut off on the edges of what this one will look like when finished. What I did in May for my own personal mania was I worked 15 minutes a day on one that's meant to be a gift, and 30 minutes a day on that little bird that I just showed you. And then I randomly, used a random number generator to choose one of my whips to work on. And I did that every day of the month. I'm sure I did more than that though, because I seem to recall stitching for close to 3 hours every day. So, anyway, that's not adding up to three, but it was close to that somehow. Anyway, I did at least half an hour on each whip that came up. And this one came up the least often, so it got the least work. And it's huge. I became acquainted with it through a picture of somebody's finished one at Instagram. I am so sad about Instagram now that I can't just type in cross stitch as a hashtag and scroll through all the 6 million cross stitch results that used to come up. All they give you now is the top ones, and that does nothing for me. I That's not why I went there. That's not why I looked at them. That's not Anyway, I found this one when searching long dog samplers back when you could scroll through everything. I just hate it that they limit you now to only the top ones, because I can't find or see anything interesting that way, except a handful of, nice projects. I'm not objecting to what comes up at the top, but it doesn't let me browse the way I want to. Anyway, one day long ago when you could browse, I came across someone doing this one, and I'm trying to get oops, wrong one. This is it. Trying to get the cover off of my scroll frame so that I can show you the progress. Sorry, it's in a pillowcase. There's not much going on here, and not much got added. Sorry, I think I just smacked the light. Can we line this up in a way that you can see it? Maybe. There we go. All I have is a bit of border, and you can see the needle hanging there. Not much to show, but that's what it'll be someday. As I said, the top is kind of cut off, so you can't even see in my mock-up there that the border is even going to be there. But yeah, that one, it was available with different borders from several different Etsy sellers. I think I found it by searching peacocks and castles, something like that. So if you're interested, you might try that. It's a vintage piece of some kind, so it's one of those ones that I guess isn't under copyright, and that's why several different people have it, because it's antique, an antique design. Anyway, oops, I heard that. Did you hear that? That was the scroll frame falling over. Let's see what comes up next in my pile. As I said, I worked on every one of my whips, and this one, if you have watched a lot of flosstube videos, you're already well familiar with this. Everybody seemed to be doing this for a while there. I can't say everybody, but it was a very popular one. His eye is on the sparrow. I am not a sampler girl. I'm sorry. But when I saw this one, for some reason, it really spoke to me. But one of the side effects of not being a sampler girl is I am not into faux antiquing. So the fabric they used and so forth, the colors, everything to try to make it look vintagey and old did not appeal to me. So I changed out the fabric, the colors, all of those things. And as a result, mine doesn't look like that. And I was interested to see that their kind of sequel piece, Consider the Lilies, was much more modern fabric and colors, not so vintagey. But anyway, I did mine on apparel linen, as I have mentioned to viewers who've looked before. And let's try to turn it the right way so you can actually see this thing. There it is. My pitiful progress on such a large thing. So when it came up in May, it came up a couple or three times. I don't know. I just added a few motifs over here. Finished off another flower, I think. And added a little bit more in here. Not a lot, but it did grow a little bit in May. I think it's going to be nice when it's done, despite the distortion from using the apparel linen, which, as far as count, it's something like 32 in one direction and 36 in the other, or something. I don't know. I've tried to count them up before to see. So it's no more than 36 and no less than 32. But even though they get stretched out a little bit, I still think it's such a lovely design that it's going to be okay. I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll still be something nice to look at when it's all finished. However, my color conversions were not always the best. So you can see, for example, a lot of contrast in this horse between the mane and the body, and here almost none. It is two different colors, honestly. It really is. It's just so hard to see because I didn't choose very well, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to, when you make a conversion like that and you don't know where all the colors have been used in the design, you're kind of guessing as to what will work. And the original threads were, those nice overdyed things with different colors at each strand, and, that's not what you get when you do DMC. Anyway, let's see what else I worked on. Another project that I did is this one from Artiste. I used to have unkind things to say about Artiste. I don't entirely regret that, but I'm sad that they're completely gone now. Apparently, Hobby Lobby seems to have 95% gotten out of the cross-stitch business. There's very little there. There's floss. But this was one of their problematic kits that always has issues. And I only did a little bit when it came time for... I'm going to have to reach over there and pick it up off the floor, I think. When it came time for doing it during Mania, and it came up. I certainly hope I'm not banging the microphone around and causing you guys pain. It wouldn't be intentional, I assure you. Here we go. So what did I add to it? I think I worked a little bit in the center of the bird's nest. I seem to remember adding some things to the leaves over here. I really don't remember. It did come up in May. Gosh, is that blurring out a lot when I move things? I'm sorry. It did come up in May, and it did get worked on, and it did get added to a bit. One of the problems with this one, if you were one of my previous viewers, you may recall, is that the way they labeled the floss was incorrect, and the color I was using on the edge of the leaves was not the actual intended color of the design. And so I'm going to run out of that color, and I had to try to match it to DMC so that I won't be in a bind when I run out of all the pieces that came with it. And meanwhile, I have 13 very long strands of a color that's not being used at all because it wasn't labeled to be used, and it's the one that was supposed to be in the leaves. Anyway, that's a long saga, and one of the many problems that Artiste kits used to have. Too bad. It's not going to happen anymore, though, because I don't see any more Artiste kits. All right, another project that came out during Mania for me, because it was an old work in progress, was the Land of the Dinosaurs. And I have seen this one fully stitched in the gallery at Artisty's website, and I've also saw someone, I think, on Instagram working on it for their grandchild, and so I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be happy with it when it's done, even though it has some, retains some pixelation and such, considering it's one of those designs that's been put into a computer and, churned out. But I think I'm going to be very happy with it when it's finished. It didn't get very much work during Mania, but it did get some. And I think I worked on the sky, but I could be wrong. I might have been working on one of the dinosaurs. I don't know. But it's another one of those ones that's in a big old scroll frame. So I got to try to get it to where the camera will show you something. Hello, camera. Can you see anything that I'm trying to show? There's the sky that I worked on a little bit. There's the dinosaur and the background that are being worked on. I left my thread hanging there. I would say I must have been working right there. What do you think? Could it be that's where I was working? Obviously, I have a really, really long way to go on this one. But he did come out during Mania, so I thought if I'm going to bring you an update, I needed to show you that. Okay. I predict that's probably going to fall on the floor before we're finished here. All right, what else did I work on? I promised you 11 projects. We've gotten through a lot of them, but I've got 3 left, I think. So this one was a piece from Long Dog Samplers that I showed you in progress many months ago if you watched my video, and it got very close to a finish, but I am burned out on back stitch. And that relates to the next piece I'm going to show you, which is a fully finished object into which I put more hours of backstitching than I care to think. And so when I did this long dog, I deliberately didn't do the backstitch at the same time, even though I knew it would be painful to do it at the end, because I wanted to see how it looked without the backstitch. I didn't intend to leave it that way, but I just wanted to see how it looked without the backstitch. So I got my chance to see what I wanted to see, but now I'm finding myself not wanting to do the back stitching, which is a pity. But here's where we are. This corner is completely back stitched. This one might get done someday. I've done a little bit. And yes, the whole thing is done. You can see it wrapped around the scroll frame there. I've done all of the cross stitching. It's a much brighter color than my lights are letting you see. That's too bad. It's actually very, very bright and cheery, kind of a green. It's hard to describe it. This is a whole new camera setup and everything for me than I used to use before, so I don't know if there's any way for me to improve on things like the color and such. I don't know. But anyway, that's my long dog sampler called Rose Marquee. And that's another thing I dislike about the changes to Instagram, is I used to be able to search something like long dog samplers and just scroll through until I saw ones that I had or was working on. In fact, that used to be what I would do all the time with Instagram, is scroll until I saw something that I wanted to click on and find more about, or until I came across something that I was doing, and then I'd be like, oh, look at that, that's a project I have or one that I'm doing, and I don't know, they interested me that way. Can't do that anymore. If there isn't somebody in Long Dog Samplers who is doing Rose Marquee and it happens to be one of the top ones, I'm not going to see it because they don't show it to you anymore. Okay, I fibbed. I actually have 3 more projects to go. But one of them, the one that is fully finished, is this one. This chart I got much after the fact. I wanted to be sure that I could tell what was going on in the design I had. It's kind of hard to explain, but this was probably an unnecessary expenditure of money to get this. But you may know that Cooler Design Studio has reissued charts for many, many of their old projects that were kits. So if there's some hard to find kit that you were interested in from back in the day, there's a very good chance that they may have reissued a chart for it. However, their charts, as you can see, are just kind of computer mock-ups, as opposed to the original that I got way back when it was in the stores, when they actually showed you the results stitched up to see. This was one of those stitched onto plain white cotton projects where the X's are already in place for you. This is what they used to call stamped cross stitch. Notice it says stamped 10 to the inch. Now people think of it as all those ones from China and elsewhere where they're pre-printed canvases, I guess you could say. But those are probably more enjoyable than this kind of stitching. I really don't care for this much. And there's all my leftover materials. It was not something enjoyable. I've heard people say that when you stitch to gift, I've sometimes heard people say that it's more about you than the recipient, because you're the one who's getting the enjoyment out of stitching it, and your recipient might not even like it. Well, I sure hope they like this, because I didn't get that much enjoyment out of stitching it, and it took a lot of years, and I'm not entirely happy with the result, but here we go. Can I even get it so you don't get all the glare? Who knows? We're going to get a lot of reflection on this. But that is my finished Tiffany Wedding is the name of this piece. Oh, it was a struggle. Why was it a struggle? Well, a couple of things. One, towards the end. Goodness, where is that glare coming from? Is that you? No, it's not you. If I could figure out what's causing that reflection, I'd be very happy to. That's the camera itself. Maybe the glass is reflecting the light back up at the camera lens. I don't know. Anyway, what I was saying about this was one of the problems towards the very end was getting on the custom lettering. the words like united in marriage were already there, obviously. And yes, this was ironed, and yes, it was stretched and everything else, and I could still see horrible wrinkles that just would not go away. That was one of the things I didn't like about it. Another thing was when I washed it, I thought all of the blue stamping would come out, and instead it came mostly out of things like the words, but there's still stamping behind the other parts of the design, and that bugs me. Gosh, that reflection is annoying. Towards the end, I had to use tracing materials to get that lettering on there. You know, this kind where you draw over it and goes on there. I did one word at a time. For example, there's Thomas, his name. And it was still a race to get the stitching in there before the letters faded. I mean, in a single stitching session, you could put what you wanted, trace it right on there, start stitching, and you're guessing the letters before you even get to the end of the word. That stuff just does not work well. It fades almost instantly. And so I'm not happy with all of my lettering, but there wasn't much I could do because I had nothing else to transfer it with. That transfer paper was just not good. And so you ended up with things like this really wonky looking year down here because you're stitching away and thinking you're stitching where the line transferred, but you're not sure, and when you get done it's obvious that you weren't stitching in the right place, but you couldn't tell at the time because all the letters faded away. It's just annoying. Also, I know you can do things like loop start with crosses, but I don't know what you do with things like backstitch. And so I had to carry my thread in places because I can't just put something out in the middle of nowhere. And so I can see places where the dark thread is crossing behind in the white background. They're just things that I'm unhappy with. But I hope that the recipient will like it. Gosh, that glare must be a horrible thing for you viewers to watch. I'm so sorry. But that one was Tiffany Wedding. Finished, as you could tell by the date, it's for a 25th wedding anniversary. I didn't start it immediately after the wedding, but yeah, more than 20 years went into that thing because I didn't enjoy it and it didn't come out very often. I'm sorry, just have to be honest about it. I don't know that I want to do another stamped one. I can't even tell you all the reasons I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't. Okay, 2 pieces to go. This is Underwater Paradise from the Gold Collection Dimensions. I have stitched it before. This is my packaging from stitching it before. And the reason I brought this out to show you today is because I ran into an issue with some of the colors. These are the 2 grays, the dark gray and the light gray, that came with my original stitching. I hope you can see there's a lot of contrast between the dark gray and the light gray. I don't know how well you can see it, but there is. In the new one, there's almost no contrast. And these are not something that you can find DMC matches for. Neither DMC nor Inker seems to have any color remotely like those grays. So I'm stitching along, but I am not 100% happy with the results. This is one of those that came up during my mania when I was just stitching on whatever came up randomly. So you don't want to see the back. Lord, no. Definitely don't want to see the back. But there's where I got to, and the 2 grays, for example, are in and around and near this fish, and it's just like I just don't see enough difference in them, and it bothers me. But there's a long, long way to go. It's only one small part of the picture. I am sure that it'll work out okay in the end. Those are very interesting lines I'm seeing on my computer from the light. I hope that they're not there for you. That would be weird and annoying, but maybe they are. Maybe it's interesting. Maybe you like abstract looking lines showing up. I don't know. Anyway, that's my progress on Underwater Paradise. So the last one I have to show, and it's not like it's more special or interesting than any of the others, it just happens to be the one that was on my table, and so I left it where it was to show you, is a new start. It's this one called Dinosaurs 1 to 10. It's an old pattern from 1993, I think. And I have seen others, I think on Instagram or somewhere I saw this. Not anymore. Can I keep harping on that? Yeah, I probably better not. But it's a large chart. It folds out to pretty much the same size as the piece itself. You could stitch it, of course, on any size fabric you like. I decided to go with a 14 count, and they recommended that you use 3 strands if you're going to do that. So I'm finding out it's a kind of a nail biter because for the colors, yes, you could change them to anything you want to. I have an objection to design obsolescence when materialistic culture pushes things by making sure that the design palette and colors change constantly. It's nice to have variety, but things look terribly dated because the colors are constantly changing. And so perhaps these colors from 1993 would look dated. They're actually so much brighter than what you're seeing. And one could change them to a more modern palette. But I deliberately did not do so. I refuse to do that. Yeah, I could pull out something more modern and show you that they're sort of like I see them now as a variant on those 80s colors that came out of Miami Vice with the teals and pinks and things. You got a lot of those now in stitching, but they're a little more intense than the 80s versions were. But yeah, I'm fine with these bright primary colors. But what I was saying about the 3 strands is that I pulled skeins from vintage batches of floss that I had bought off of eBay, and I'm worried with the 3 strands, I only had like 1 skein of each, that I'm going to end up running out of colors. My green one, I worked out okay. These guys, I had this much green left of the lighter green, this much. You can't even see what I'm doing. Let me pull it out and show you. So the dark green, which was just accents, wasn't a problem, but I had that much of a skein left on the light green. Not a lot, because when you're doing 3 strands, it really eats up the floss. Hopefully it's going to be okay. I'm doing the green, dark green up here. I've got that much left. I've got to do this big old brontosaurus sauropod type dinosaur. Maybe it's called Diplodocus. I don't know. I think the directions tell me what he is. But I need to do him with my green. And I'm hoping there's enough, because you may know if you've been cross-stitching any amount of time that there's not really supposed to be dye lots with things like DMC, but when you're talking about a whole lot of years of difference, yes, the colors don't always match up. So I hope that my colors go far enough to finish each one. As you can see, I am kind of back stitching as I go along. They don't have their eyes yet. They should have eyes. You probably can't tell because this chart's just too tiny from where you're sitting. See how even they did different colors on some of them. You could have a purple dinosaur if you didn't want a green one, but I'm going to stick with their colors. I am doing some back stitching as I go along, but it just depends on my mood. Some days I want to backstitch, some days I don't. I'm also questioning some of my choices. It's single stitched around each of the critters, but it's double stitched around the numbers and between the back stitching, that is, and the borders. And I had decided to use, I don't know if I can find it, some leftover floss from a kit, an old kit, for the borders and things, and it seems thinner to me than DMC. And so even though I'm doing 2 strands, it seems really skinny. I don't see a lot of contrast between it and the single-stranded DMC. Also, if I run out and have to use DMC, are my borders not going to match? I don't know. It's been so long since I talked to you all. I seem to be losing my voice here. That's it for my stitching update. I have no idea if that was organized or rambling or what it was, but I hope that, for those who wanted to see what I've been up to, you got something out of it. I am not planning to show you things like haul. I am hoping I don't have things like haul to show you. I sat down and tried to calculate where my money went over the past year or so, year and a half, And some months I really dive into something and throw away so much money on it, and other months I do better. My last cross stitch purchase should have been October. I think it was October 13th. But here at the beginning of December, I think about a week or so ago, 9 days ago, I succumbed to somehow coming across 1, 2, 3 stitch, and there were some clearance kits, and I bought 3 kits, and I didn't need them. I really don't need them. So the rest of this video is kind of going to be a commentary on things like that. So if you only came for the stitching, you can probably drop out now. But I want to talk about making this the anti-haul channel, if I can. Making this the I'm trying not to buy more than I need. So, as I said, before that December purchase, I managed to keep it to 2 purchases in October, one of which was a book, and what was the other? I think it was a stocking that I didn't need. Before that, there were no purchases in August or September, I think. But if you go back far enough, there have been months like April where I purchased on 8 different dates. And when I say purchased, it can be multiple things. It can be, $100, $200 at a pop, on 8 different dates. It's ridiculous. I don't need any of those things. I don't want any of those things. The world does not need me having those shipped from one place to another. It does not need to put the resources into creating these things that I will probably never get around to stitching. Do I love them? Yes. Do I tell myself that it's about collecting? Yeah, I try to get away with telling myself that. But the truth is, I have this lady in my head, this loopy lady. We all have many facets to our personalities that come together and make us who we are. And one of the facets of mine gets so enthusiastic about things. I don't know if it's a manic depressive type thing. I don't know, because we've had that in the family. But I'll get manic sometimes, it seems, and get over the top about something. And it makes me think of a scene in Singing in the Rain, if you've ever seen that, where Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor are taking voice lessons, and they begin very enthusiastically, exuberantly singing a song that goes along with their voice lessons. And near the end, they pile up all the signage and curtains and other loose objects, trash cans, everything on their instructor, who's sitting in the middle of the room, completely bewildered. And with great enthusiasm and, as I said, exuberance, they sing their final triumphant note while he's buried in all this junk. That's the way I feel. This flaky, loopy lady who lives inside me, very enthusiastically and exuberantly goes out there and buys things that she thinks I will like. I mean, after all, she's me. She must know what she's talking about, right? And she piles them on me the way the gentleman in this movie piled things on the poor guy in the center of the room. And she's excited and happy about it and says, "Oh, how do you like this book? Isn't this a great book? Let's get this book. Let's get 20 more. How do you like this kit? Oh, aren't these beautiful kits? Let's fill up our cart and get a whole bunch more. Oh, look at these charts. Don't you want these charts?" And so on. You get the idea. Most recently, it's been Viewmaster reels. I first fell down that hole several years ago and climbed out in part because I didn't know some of the condition issues that Viewmaster can have, and when I got my first batch of bubbled reels, it sort of took my enthusiasm out of it and saved me from buying more at the time. I don't know what triggered it this time, but I have finally decided that the fact that this flaky woman inside me, this irrational person, thinks that she can buy all this stuff. One of the stressors in my life is being overwhelmed by having too much to do. And it occurred to me recently, and it's my mantra now, that just because she bought it, she being part of me, but I am not obligated to do anything with it. I'm not sure if this is coming across and making sense to you all, but When you make a commitment to someone else, when you have an outside commitment, you are kind of ethically bound to live up to that commitment. But when some irrational part of you puts things on your plate, you don't have to follow through on that unless it's rational. If you make a commitment for yourself that's reasonable, by all means, stick to it. You owe it to yourself to do it. But if some nutso part of you has shopaholic tendencies and hoarding tendencies and everything else and buries you in stuff that you couldn't possibly get through in 25 lifetimes, you're not actually under any obligation to feel that you need to do anything with that. So I'm hoping to quell the exuberance and enthusiasm of this flaky part of me by making it clear to her that I don't care what she buys. I'm going to work on what I'm going to work on. I am not going to be one of those people with 200 whips because that stresses me out. But I'm going to try to stop buying. I'm going to try to not have tons and tons of stuff. I already have it. I mean, it's a little too late. That ship has sailed. But I'm going to try not to add more. And so I am not going to be showing you things like haul, even though I have relatively little for me. Like I said, I bought 3 kits at the beginning of this month. I bought a book in October and a kit in October. From time to time, I've had to go out and get something like a skein of floss. I had to go for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth there when I decided she needed a lighter color. I had to go to the store to get that and some of her other colors. I think I wanted to use her called for colors and didn't have them. But yeah, it's not that I have too much haul or that I'm embarrassed with the haul that I've gotten of late. But I don't want to encourage that overconsumption. I don't know. If you're happy shopping and buying and getting lots of haul, fine, do it. Do what works for you. It's not working for me anymore. So I won't be showing those things. There may come a day when I show you my collections of kits and such, but it's not intended to encourage overconsumption and buying. If I could just turn the camera and show you the room, but it's, sort of stuck on a tripod here, you would see all the boxes of kits that I have and all the embroidery things that I have acquired and all the, I don't know, there's just too much of everything. This is probably ruining all of the part of the video that came before this that made sense, but I had been thinking about it, and I thought if I visit with my flosstube viewers, I just want to let them know that that's my mindset now. I'm kind of putting it out there, not because I'm afraid I won't stick to it if I don't share it with you, but because it's sort of freeing in a way to know that I don't care what she buys. And so she better stop doing it. She myself, that part of me that is a facet I could do without. And I want to be happy with what I've got. I want to be content with what is there and have a good time stitching what is there and not feel that I need to get more and more and more. So that's it. That's my update. I don't know if I covered all the things that I thought in my mind I would have something to say about. I probably covered way too much at the end there about my anti-haulness, and I don't even think I did it with any clarity. But I would like to be able to come back to you in the future and be able to say, hi, this is AM Dreamingstitcher. I'm a shopaholic. It has been X number of days since my last cross-stitch purchase. And if I had been able to say, 6 weeks since the middle of October, that would have been great. Too bad I can't say that because I bought in December. But yeah, it has been less than 10 days since my last purchase. And I don't want that to be the case. I want to do better. So thank you for tuning in to see what I've been up to. My plans, if you care at all to know, are to continue working on this one. I'm really kind of monogamous right now. I am so glad to have... Oh, I told you I'd say something about the backstitch. Yes, the backstitch. I'm so glad to have this done. That's what I left out. There's that reflection again. My goodness. Everywhere that you see the leading of the... Here we go. of the stained glass in this design. Everywhere there's a black line had to be stitched, had to be back stitched. And it's not just that there's the quantity of it, it's how hard it was to see. I had to have the light shining in such a way that I could see the twists in the thread to know, and use my plus ones is what my eye doctor called these, my glasses that magnify a little bit, to know whether I had laid a thread down in any particular place or not. It was really hard, it was really annoying, but it made a difference. I could see, even though there was black lines there already, when the thread was there, things popped out more. Let's just put it that way. It made a difference to have it backstitched. It was just really hard to see what you were doing when backstitching. And I spent 15 minutes a day. This is why I said I'd talk about plans. From in April, all of May, I believe all of June. Then I got burned out. Picked it up again at the beginning of October. 15 minutes a day of nothing but the backstitching on this. I didn't just start backstitching in April, though. I worked on this project last year. A lot of the backstitching was done. I should have taken a picture of the back so you could see all this backstitching. But at 15 minutes a day for April, May, June, and October, I finished at the very beginning of November, you know that right there is 30 hours of backstitching. So how much did I do before that? I'm not sure, but I can tell you I put at least 40 hours, probably way more than that, of just backstitching. That's too much, folks. I don't ever want to do that again. Like I said, it isn't how much backstitching is there, it's how hard it was to see what I was doing, to know where to go next, to way too many hours of backstitching. I'm a slow stitcher anyway. I can do about 100 average 100 crosses in an hour, unless it's big blocks of color like these dinosaurs. But oh, wow. So my plans for the future, I had thought to do 15 minutes a day of backstitching on my long dog sampler. But as I said, I'm really burned out. 15 minutes a day, and this would have been done long ago. I mean, considering I finished that other thing at the beginning of November, I could have gone right through this, in the month of November. It would have been done. It would have been done by now, I'm sure. Because this is not 40 hours of backstitching. This is, it takes way less to do this. But I just can't bring myself to pick up the needle and do it. Just the thought of it is torture. But I will get it done, and that's why I'm backstitching as I go along on these, and they're not bothering me a bit because you can see exactly what you're doing, and there's so much contrast between the stitching and where the backstitching is go that it's like no problem. This is easy peasy. It's not an issue. So yeah, so my plans is I hope to work on this. I'm pretty monogamous. This is the thing I would do. I should be doing 15 minutes a day on that other one because my goal is to winnow down my whips. It's nice to pick up something small from time to time, like the bird. That's why I did it, was I was tired of things that, were taking too much time, too involved. I did a large piece last year as a Christmas gift for someone. I just needed a break sometimes for something that's little and you can pop out relatively quickly. Elizabeth, for example, I think took less than 3 days to do the whole thing, and that was with having to go to the store for floss. Where did she go? Your Majesty, where did I leave you? I've lost the Queen. Oh, there she is. Just to show you, she's just a little thing. It was, just a... Goodness, it didn't take a whole lot of time to do that. So it's nice to have small things now and then. I can't say that I won't pull little things out if I'm going crazy. But all of my whips right now are pretty substantially large pieces. Things like this Land of the Dinosaurs is going to take quite a while. The Dimensions kit, that's slow going, y'all. If you've done them, you know how it's like to have 4 strands of this and 3 strands of that and 2 of each color doing half stitches here, and it takes a while. And this one is huge. It's like 400 or 600 stitches long. I don't remember. At least 400. It's just going to be a really, really long time. Maybe it says 451 wide by 779 long. Getting these whips down is going to be hard enough as it is. I don't need to add any more to the mix. So I'm going to work on this, and then I will choose one of my other ones and work on that. And, we're going to try to little by little get it down to a manageable number. Right now, of the 11 things I showed you, 4 were finishes or near finishes. So I guess that means I have 7 whips, and 7 is too many. I'd like it down to maybe 3. And how long is that going to take? A while. So chances are, although I'm pretty close on Rose Markey, chances are that I will maybe do darts that are small in between these whips, just to, give myself a fast finish. In fact, there's a really good chance something like that will happen. But mostly I'm going to be kind of monogamous, so when I come to you in the future, there may not be a lot to show. I don't know that it'll be 11 months before I come again. I certainly hope not. See how this one turns out, if the video's any good, if the sound's any good, that kind of thing, how awful the picture is. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got, folks. That's my progress, that's my plans, that's my thoughts on things like haul and acquisitions. And I think I'm done. Thank you for your patience in watching this extraordinarily long video. Turn that so I can get back to work on it. Happy stitching for all of you who are out there and trying to get projects done. I hope that they are going well. I hope that you will be very happy throughout this holiday season, whatever particular celebrations you participate in. And I thank you for stopping by and watching this. I thank you for having enough interest. Not that it matters. I almost took the time to finish these little gaps before filming, because I was thinking they must be terribly annoying to people. I want to get them filled in. But then I'd be thinking too much about y'all. So that was another set of thoughts I had. Not just that I don't want to show off haul, but that my stitching needs to be about me and not about outside things. It's not supposed to be about what can I show on flosstube. What will the flosstube viewers think of this? It's not that I don't care about your thoughts and opinions, but they can't be what drives me. I can't worry about the number of views, if any, the number of subscribers going up or down, whether people are going to be bothered by this not being finished, or threads hanging off projects that are still being worked on. I'm sorry. This is to motivate me. I want to share. I want to be part of a group of people that understands this hobby that I love. And so I really appreciate you all. But I'm not filming so much with you in mind, except to share with you what I'm doing. See it, enjoy it. But I'm not going to worry about whether things are ironed and perfect. I'm not going to worry about needles hanging and so forth, as I said. It's not about that, folks. Sorry. So if you want things more perfect, if you want somebody more professional, then you've probably already found them, and you probably never watched me this far to begin with. So for those of you who do, thanks. You get me. You understand. You know what I'm talking about, probably. So thank you very much. That's it. I've wandered on enough. This is the longest goodbye ever. So thank you for tuning in. I'll make another video sometime. I don't know when. I miss so many of my favorite floss tubers that just haven't posted in forever, but everybody's got lives. You got to do what you got to do. Thank y'all. Bye.